Ahead.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all of you joining us today. I just want to thank you all so much for joining OSA's first quarterly call. Our goal is to convene conversations that support organic seed systems by sharing our experiences focused on such topics as seed production, participatory plant breeding, advocacy, and seed stories. We're super excited to have you here today on what we hope will be a regular opportunity for all of us to get together throughout the year and in between other times that we can convene in person. If you want to put your name or anything about yourself in the chat, please feel free to do so. And I'm going to turn it back over to Abba.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. My name is Abba Kaiser. I am the Assistant Director of Outreach focused on events for Organic Seed Alliance, and it's my pleasure today to be with you. I use she and they pronouns. I'm based on the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington State, about a half-mile from the Organic Seed Alliance research farm. And I'm really excited today to be introducing the quarterly calls with a very special call on participatory plant breeding and a community of practice that's potentially emerging for this realm. So a little bit about quarterly calls before we get started. These calls are open source, so we want to hear from you about what you want to hear more about in these calls. And we have a poll that we're going to send around after the call, so you can suggest a topic area or a speaker if you'd like. And this is for really everyone who touches the value system of seeds, so farmers and producers, researchers, advocates, and food system leaders. And we're really hoping to weave together information about the experiences within OSA and to use this as a way to connect all of the advocacy and research and educational initiatives that we have going on with you, our community, and make sure that there's a regular touch point of communication throughout the year. And we are really excited to do this quarterly. The next call is coming up on August 1st. So if you have a topic area you're interested in presenting or hearing about, we can post this link in the chat for you to let us know what you think. I'm going to invite Laura to read our community agreements before we get started.
Thanks, Abba. We have a role in tending the space. During this event, we agree to speak for ourselves and make space for others, be as present as possible, be aware of who is missing in each conversation, remember that no one has a monopoly on truth and everyone's experience is valid, critique ideas, not people, listen to our bodies and tend to their needs, give some grace for technical and logistical difficulties, and aim for connection, not perfection.
Thanks, Laura. Just let that sink in for a second. Awesome. So a little bit about today's call. We are in the middle of our welcome. We're going to launch a poll in just a second just to get a sense of who's in the room. Then we're going to hear from our advocacy director, Cathleen McCluskey, who's got some policy updates for us. She is working on at the national level to stay connected to what's happening in the organic world on behalf of Seed and on behalf of our work and the work that many of you do in this room. And then we'll turn it over to our guest speakers who will be talking about the participatory plant breeding community of practice as a potential. And we're looking forward to their presentation. That's going to be with Jared Zystro, Almendra Cremasci, and Solveig Hanson. After that, we will go into breakout rooms by region. We've got some OSA staff on the call who are going to help lead those discussions specific to PPB or to hear from you about anything else you want to discuss. And then we'll be coming back into the room, hopefully with enough time for everyone on this call to share out the initiatives and the announcements of upcoming events and things that they have going on that they want everybody to know about. This meeting is being recorded. All of the resources will be shared out on the OSA website after the call. So this is an open source way for us to sort of galvanize and get all of the important announcements and initiatives that you're working on in one place at one time. We'll come together for a short return with takeaways and wrap up at the end, and then we will say farewell. So I'm going to launch a poll, and this is just to help us get a sense of who's in the room. So you should see a little poll pop up on your screen. There's just 4 questions there, and I'll give you a minute to answer. So we've got folks responding, which is great. A few questions. I'll give you a minute here. All right. Give me just one more minute. We've got about 75% of folks participating. All right, so we'll go ahead and share these results. Let's see, can you see the results there? Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah, awesome. So it looks like we've got some farmers on the call, gardeners, mostly NGOs. Welcome everyone, some organic certifiers, plant breeders and seed companies. I'm curious, the folks who chose other, if you can post in the chat what you identify as and where you're coming from. Got advocates and students, researchers. Looks like we've got a lot of folks with no experience with PPB on the call, and that's exciting. So we're going to learn a lot together. Most with some experience and some with a lot of experience. And it looks like about 30% are thinking about the community of practice as being beneficial. Let's see. Oh, here we go. That's fun, isn't it? All right. So just to give us a little groundwork for who's on the call, we'll move back to our room here, and I'm going to introduce Cathleen McCluskey to give us a little bit of a policy update from Organic Seed Alliance. Kat, are you there?
I am here. Thanks, Abba. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all on Zoom. Yeah, Abba, I don't have a deck, so I don't know if you
Great.
want to be sharing a screen. We're just gonna chat. I mean, if
Awesome.
you want to look at this giant photograph of me, that's cool, but we could also just be in real time here. So hi, everybody. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Kat McCluskey. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Director at Organic Seed Alliance. I'm based in Ho-Chunk territory down here in southern Wisconsin and Madison. I've been with the organization for about 15 years and have held several different positions within the organization and feel very, very honored to be able to be leading our advocacy and our policy work. So I'm really thrilled to be on our first quarterly call. I'm really excited about this. This is something we've long talked about as a team. And with ABBA's leadership and expertise, it's really exciting to see it coming together. And so we'll be sharing, I'll be joining these calls, of course, to learn and be in community with everybody, but I'll also provide some updates on what's going on at the national level with our policy work and our advocacy work. So just briefly, I want to share an overview of our advocacy program. OSA's program conducts legal and cultural advocacy towards policies that support organic agriculture and farmers' rights to save seed. Our program aims to develop policy actions that result in more organic acreage planted to organic seed, more investments in organic seed production, and increased qualities and diversity in organic seed that is available. Our policy actions and our advocacy efforts involve directly targeting regulators and policymakers, such as the National Organic Program and organic certifiers, lifting up organic seed growers' voices, and really using the state of organic seed data, which I'll talk more about in a minute, and recommendations as a messaging tool and a touchstone. Through our advocacy program, we also are working to increase seed growers' literacy on intellectual property rights associated with seed. And we advocate for legal changes to intellectual property tools and strategies. I see several of you who were able to join us for our IP symposium on seed. That was a precursor to the February Organic Seed Growers Conference, where we talked in depth about the work that's happening in communities developing alternative IP models that more closely align with the values of centering seed growers' rights and communities' rights to manage and navigate and hold their own seed. This is all related and of course comes back to this underpinning of our program to help support growers' abilities to tend seed in perpetuity. We approach all of our advocacy policy work with a participatory framework, much like we'll hear about today from our guest speakers. And we do this because we know that when a diversity of communities and cultures are involved with these seed policy actions, the impact will be stronger and more equitable, of course. So we have several projects and channels in which we do our policy and advocacy work. One that I just mentioned was our State of Organic Seed project. So every 5 years, OSA conducts and releases or conducts research and releases our State of Organic Seed progress report and an action plan for increasing the organic seed supply while fostering seed grower networks. And again, the policies that aim to decentralize power and ownership in seed systems. That project is co-led by myself and Jared Zystro, who's on the call with us today. Many of you know, of course. Our latest report was published in 2022, and that is our third update, which has allowed us to compare new data with our 2011 and 2016 findings. 2025 is a data collection year. So we're just about to get underway with that, with the goal of releasing that report in 2027. We also have a policy platform for seed, which you can find on our website. And I am going to slow down talking so I can also drop the link to that in the chat. No, it's not going to happen, but I will in a minute. The key objectives of our platform are multifold. One is to develop or to level the playing field for seed growers and independent seed companies, to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in policies and policymaking, to resist the privatization of seeds and genetic traits, to increase investments in public plant breeding as a climate change solution, to support the ecological seed production by expanding organic seed acreage, to protect the genetic integrity of organic and other non-GE seed, and to increase the diversity and quantity of organic seed available in the marketplace. So we'll drop that link in the chat. The policy platform has been endorsed by several community members and several organizations. Our hope here and our work around this policy platform is also to shop around the policies around seed that we're working on and advocating for to other organizations and coalitions who are doing policy work that might not be focused on seed. So we can work together in developing strategies from seed to marketplace and to consumer plates and policies that support that. We do much of our policy work through coalitions, and we're a member of several coalitions, including the National Organic Coalition, the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, Organic Trade Association, Organic Farmers Association, IFOAM Organics International, and we're involved in the Seeds and Breeds Coalition reinvigoration efforts that are happening as well. We also participate in the National Organic Standards Board. We have long, since the launch of our advocacy program, we have been involved in NOSB meetings, providing public comments at each of the two public meetings. The board operates in accordance with it's a FACA, it's a Federal Advisory Committee, and it directly makes recommendations to the National Organic Program for the continuous improvement of the organic seal. There are many timely NOSB things related to organic seed that I don't have time to get into, but I will share that I've recently been appointed to the NOSB, which is a huge honor. It's also a huge opportunity to be able to bring the voices of the organic seed communities that we all work with to the conversations and thinking around rulemaking. My hope is that we can use these quarterly calls that are coming up right before the NOSB meetings to carve out some more time for discussion about the priorities and the regulation and the work around seed that's happening at that upcoming meeting to help inform both my work as a board member, but also Organic Seed Alliance's comments that we will submit and continue to submit to NOSB. I feel like this is a fire hose of advocacy policy information, but I'm going to keep going because I've got just about a minute. I also want to share that right now we are working with our coalition members and partners to move forward move forward farm bill priorities, as well as new marker bills. So right now we are operating under the 2018 Farm Bill. After two extensions of that Farm Bill, the hope is that we will have a new Farm Bill that's passed before its expiry this September. That's looking like a long shot if you are reading the newspaper at all. But we still need to move forward these marker bills and prepare as though Congress would be able to pass a Farm Bill this year. So those bills include the Organic Science and Research Investment Act, which funds critical research that gives farmers innovative organic practices and varieties while ensuring that consumers have access to high quality, sustainably grown food. The Agricultural Resilience Act, which was reintroduced by Shelley Pingree of Maine and Senator Heinrich of New Mexico. That includes these seeds and breeds priorities, developing farmer-ready cultivars while opening new market opportunities for growers. We've also signed on to the Organic Imports Verification Act. Those of you who are growers, handlers, or processors might be familiar with the Strengthening Organic Enforcement Act regulation, that was rolled out last March. So this is really related to that, helping protect organic farmers from unfair competition and ensuring the authenticity of organic products. We are also collecting stories of impacts of federal funding freezes and contract cancellations on seed growers. If you have anything that you would like to share with me, please reach out to me directly. I'll pop my email into the chat. And with that, I will pass it back over to Abba.
Thanks, Kat. It's always so incredible to hear about all the work that you're doing, all that you're holding. So thank you. And yeah, definitely reach out to Kat if you want to connect more on our advocacy program. Okay, I'm going to take a breath here. I'm going to introduce some folks from SeedChange who we were remiss in mentioning at the top of the call. But I'm going to invite Beatriz Oliver and Marvin Gomez to say a quick hello. They've been working on some PPB initiatives that are pertinent to the call, and I just wanted to give them the opportunity before we launch into the other presentation to give us a little update on the different aspects of this work that they've been leading to date. So I don't know, welcome Beatriz and Oliver. I don't know if Beatriz and Marvin, if you want to unmute. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. I can say a few words and then Marvin will provide more details. Thank you for inviting us to your call, and it's very exciting to see all this, communication networking around PPB. So SeedChange is an organization used to be called USC Canada, founded in 1945 in Canada, works internationally since its beginning. And I've put a few notes there on the slide. The BAUTA program for Canadian seed security is the Canadian program of SeedChange, and does PPB with seed producers. And I believe several people who are on this call know our colleagues that work in the BAUTA program. They also involved in seed policy as well. We also have been involved for a few years with something called the PPB Working Group, which is currently very quiet, but at one point had 80 members from around the world, specialists, NGO folks, etc., working on PPB. And there was funding from the Global Alliance for the Future of Food to connect as a network and to fund grassroots initiatives as decided by the working group. So it was a really great process of decision making to support really new, especially grassroots initiatives with participatory plant breeding and varietal selection. And that's how I know Almendra. Marvin and I know Almendra through that working group. So it's kind of exciting too to see if there's possible synergies. We haven't given up on the PPB working group, although it's quite quiet now, but there's potential there because there's also funders that participated and really important regional networks that ideally would be in communication. And then the last element I want to mention is the Seeds to Survival program, which is really the reason for all of this, because in 1989, SeedChange, then called USC Canada, started working with partners in Ethiopia to protect local seeds that face with extinction. And then it really blossomed into this global program with trainings and funding programs, especially funded by the Canadian government. And there was international trainings to support things like community seed bank systems, participatory plant breeding, participatory varietal selection, and then funding. So there were programs linking different regions of the world and countries, and a lot of policy as well, policy on farmers' rights, and really with a food sovereignty and agroecology based approach. So with that, I'll pass it to Marvin, who is an expert in PPB and is based in Honduras. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatriz. Thank you very much for having me in this meeting. As Beatriz explained, I'm part of the Seed of Survival program since 2005. And here in Central America, we have a regional program, the Participatory Plant Breeding program, since 1999. And part of the program is funded and supported by Seed of Survival program. We run the program here in the region in 4 countries: Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, and also Costa Rica. And I'm part of the program here in Honduras, and that program includes researchers from universities, farmers organizations, NGOs, and other stakeholders at the national level. So our approach since from the beginning is to build community. So part of our approach trying to organize this PPB working group is to learn from that process and the way to how we build this community, especially to strengthen the capacity of the farmers, researchers, to establish a dialogue and to maintain this process of PPB and to moving forward in terms of policy advocacy and access for germplasm and other aspects that are very important in the PPB initiatives. So I think it's a great opportunity that we have to know this new platform, and we'll be here to share any experience and to learn from all this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beatriz and Marvin. And just a great example of why a potential community of practice conversation would be so helpful, because there's so many amazing people like you across the world to continue this work, and truly we stand on your shoulders. So thank you for laying the groundwork for this call truly today. And I'm going to introduce our guest speakers today, Almendra Cremasci, Jared Zystro, and Solveig Hanson. I'm just going to briefly read their bios and then turn it over to them to give you a presentation on sort of how we got to this conversation, what the vision is for sharing resources and how we might be able to move forward together. So briefly, Almendra Cremasci is a researcher and associate professor at the University of San Martin, Argentina, specializing in sustainability transitions and agri-food systems, co-founder of Bioleft, which she also directs. It is a community-driven laboratory dedicated to open source seed breeding and exchange, aiming to democratize plant breeding by supporting participatory practices that involve farmers directly. Its co-designed digital platform promotes open science, transparent exchange of data and knowledge, and as a global member of the Open Source Seed Initiative, Bioleft operates under principles of seed commons, treating them as shared resources rather than proprietary assets. Their work is geared towards resilient, biodiverse, rich food ecosystems that are adapted and less reliant on corporate-controlled seed markets. Her work bridges academic, research, and real-world applications, advocating for collaborative approaches. And we're going to also hear from Solveig Hanson, who joined Virginia Moore's Sustainable Cropping Systems Breeding Lab at Cornell University in January 2023, where she coordinates research and outreach for the National Cover Crop Breeding Network. As a leader of the network Winter Pea Breeding Program, Solveig coordinates on-farm breeding nurseries and has initiated participatory variety trials on 70 farms and gardens. She received her PhD in plant breeding genetics from University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2020, where she conducted genetic, genomic, and participatory research focused on flavor in table beet. And in a subsequent postdoctoral fellowship at the University of BC, Columbia, she coordinated a Canada-wide farmer variety trialing network and led participatory efforts in carrots. And finally, our friend Jared Zystro, our very own from Organic Seed Alliance. He's the research and education director. He has an MS and PhD in plant breeding and plant genetics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he studied efficient methods of developing new organic sweet corn varieties, as many of you are familiar with. Jared has worked in the organic industry for over 15 years, managing seed production at 2 farms and conducting research and education projects with OSA, where he currently manages the regional development in California, conducting participatory breeding projects and variety trials, teaching farmers about seed production and plant breeding at workshops, conferences, and field days. He lives in Arcata, California. And with that, I'm just going to stop the share and turn it over to our speakers to give their presentation on what brought us here today. So I'll pass it to Solveig first.
Fantastic, thank you. Lovely to be here today with all of you. So I guess I'll start with how I got here and then maybe turn to how we got here as a group wanting to talk more about PPB. Like Abba said in the intro, I'm currently at Cornell University, where I coordinate a cover crop breeding network, which is composed of university breeders and trial sites all over the country. From its beginning, it's had some farmer breeders, and I've recently incorporated a participatory on-farm trial component to complement those our other nurseries and trial sites. I found plant breeding and thereby participatory plant breeding as maybe like a 3rd chapter in my career book, and I think my interest in PPB relates to the same things that drew me to those other chapters. So I'll start from the beginning. I started as a farmer. I raised vegetables in Northeast Iowa for CSA, local food service. And I loved raising food, and I loved the personal connections of knowing who I was feeding. It was very meaningful to me. I then turned to vegetable seed marketing, and I became fascinated with the differences among varieties, which is eventually what drew me towards plant breeding. But the part that really got me was finding an excellent variety and then communicating to people, through the catalog, through our online platform, why it was excellent. And so again, it was that human connection that kept me engaged and pulled me forward. So when I started exploring plant breeding programs, I found a good fit in a carrot and beet breeding lab at University of Wisconsin, and got to know people doing and studying participatory plant breeding at that point. So I was immediately drawn to this participatory aspect because that human engagement remained compelling to me. So connecting breeders and farmers and chefs as people particularly engaged with food, and then all of us as eaters, still was compelling. So I had a participatory component in my beet breeding work. I then was a postdoc with the Bouta Initiative for the Canadian Seed Security, doing vegetable variety trials with growers across Canada, using the seedling platform. I think Nico is on here today. I'm continuing to use that platform in my on-farm pea trials now. So I guess my experience is grounded in the global north, the US and Canada, where more people, probably maybe most people, have access to and maybe trouble separating themselves from their personal mobile devices, making them great options for collecting data, whereas that is not necessarily the case in the global south. So different strategies are necessary. So I guess that's where my experience is. PPB can certainly happen at many scales, and does happen at many scales. Can involve farmers or farmer input at many different points in the process, and many different levels of engagement, from being, the sole farmer working with a single breeder to develop a variety, from a more dispersed model that I've been more familiar with, wherein people get a set of varieties or a subset of varieties, pretty small plots, but the power comes from single replicates at many farms across time and space, to then draw conclusions about what does better or what is more liked by growers in all those spaces. So the current questions on my mind that drew me towards this PPB space is, on the very practical level, how to encourage grower follow through in any PPB trials, but in my case, overwinter trials, where you've had an entire winter to forget what's happening. I think on a broader level, how to break through the ever louder media landscape to reach growers and remind them and have tasks that are doable and meaningful. So defining traits in ways that are both easy enough to measure and also meaningful. That's a needle that I continue to try to thread. On a broader level, I'd love to talk with other folks about using, say, weather data to more closely define weather conditions that lead to certain results that growers observe and report to us. And on, I think, the broadest level for US ag research, how to find funding for these programs or any of the research we want to do right now. So those are some of the questions I would love to discuss. And I think at the OSGC, I just felt such wonderful energy around people doing farmer engaged breeding in all sorts of different ways, in all sorts of different contexts. And I think, the answer to everything is it depends. And especially within participatory plant breeding, the right answer is very context dependent. But by connecting people who have done this in a lot of different contexts and have had both successes and not so much successes, we can hopefully set up projects with a higher probability of success. So that's why I'm here. And I'll pass it to, I think, Jared.
All right, thank you, Solveig. Like Solveig, my experience, like Solveig, I also went to University of Wisconsin, and that was my first real encounter with participatory plant breeding. Prior to that, I had worked on vegetable and seed farms, and when I was in the University of Wisconsin studying plant breeding, studying sweet corn breeding, I had an opportunity to begin working actually with Organic Seed Alliance when I was a graduate student on a participatory plant breeding project that ultimately resulted in the Who Gets Kissed sweet corn variety. And after University of Wisconsin, in my time with Organic Seed Alliance, similar to what Solveig said, most of our work had been in the global north. And most of Organic Seed Alliance's breeding work really has been participatory. That's always been a key approach and something that philosophically and practically was appropriate for our work for a few different reasons. I'd say first, recognizing that farmers are the often hold the most information and around things like their understanding of the markets and market constraints around the varieties that they want to produce. The current production practices and best practices around growing those crops. What are the biotic and abiotic stresses that are occurring, and like where are the gaps in the varieties that currently exist? All of this really feels like is something we've observed, really bringing farmers closely into a breeding process has been key for all of those things. And then I'd say kind of in the current context, even more so, it feels like with things like climate change, with the concentration of markets around seed, as seed companies get larger and larger, there's less, more and more of a desire to just develop varieties that work well for the major markets across the globe. And so there's more and more gaps for communities, regions, markets that are not the most profitable or the largest volume of seed sales. And so there's lots of really good reasons that Organic Seed Alliance, we've always seen PPB as an important aspect of our work. In addition, it also is because the output kind of participatory plant breeding is more than just the varieties. It's also a chance to build community. It's a chance to be able to ensure that those varieties can potentially be adopted by the communities that participated. It increases, adoption, and it's also a chance to sort of serve as models and build skills around and empower people to do their own breeding, their own seed production, their own seed sharing. So there's all of these kind of added benefits besides just the kind of pure breeding itself. But something that I was thinking about, and one of the reasons I'm really excited for this conversation and for this community of practice is that, as I think all of us recognize and already been talked about, PPB is certainly on this spectrum. There's lots of different ways that PPB can be done, a lot of different things that fit into that larger umbrella of what PPB is. And by and large, I would say, looking at Organic Seed Alliance and looking at my work, a lot of our work is kind of, I'd say, been primarily either fairly deeply participatory, but maybe working with an individual farm or a couple of farmers on a variety, but where they're, it's very much a collaboration where the farmer is driving, the variety, the parental, material selection process, the selection process itself, the seed production, potentially all of those things are like, step-by-step, hand-in-hand work. Or when it starts to scale up, I'd say it starts to shift to something that's closer to, participatory variety trialing or on-farm trialing, where a lot of the research design and even like the selection of parental material is largely driven by, a single researcher, and then the farmer participants are collecting data and sharing that data, and there's some degree of communication happening, but it's largely, that the trials are happening on farms, and then that data is coming in, and then decisions are being made there. What I would love to hear more, and would love a community of practice, and maybe even a conversation today, is when you scale up to larger community scale participatory breeding, how to still maintain that deeply collaborative nature in it, so that it isn't just, so it isn't just a farm site, but it's bringing in the strength of the, of having, a farmer or, a farm team as, bringing their whole selves to the project. I was thinking about what are some other things I'd love to see, questions I have, selfishly, that I would love to see this community of practice help with. The question around how do you manage, deeply participatory work, community building, communication at a larger scale. And then questions around benefit sharing, like how do you make sure that that the work is being funded equitably, both during the breeding process, and then afterwards in terms of if there are sales or marketing of the seeds or varieties that are developed out of it. Other questions I have, and I saw this come up before, is like the push and pull ultimately of like trial designs. Like I feel like there's like 3 different places that they get pulled. One is like, okay, I know especially, and this is maybe a little less relevant for us at Organic Seed Alliance, but for those of you in academia, there's a push to like, what are the minimum standards around publishability for how, replication, plot size, experimental design works. And then kind of that's slightly different than maybe what is the optimal strategy for breeding. Like I know commercial breeders who, have developed strategies based on, large scale commercial breeding operations where it's, 3 tomato plants per plot with no replication, because that gets them the most opportunity to do selection and move, increases their ability to get gain from selection, but it's not really publishable, right? And then there's the third push of like, what's the best fit for a farm? We all know the challenges of managing a whole bunch of small plots in a farm context, for example. So those are questions I have. And I'd love to also learn more about platforms. I know Bioleft, you have a platform. I know Solveig, you mentioned SeedLink, SitSci. I see some folks are using for participatory work. There's also like more and more kind of AI tools out there. So I would love to kind of just have a place to learn and have resources pointing to some of those ways to make this work more doable. So those are some of the things I'm really frankly excited to see this conversation starting around, and I'm really hoping to hear more about where we might go from here, which I think I'll pass it over to you, Almendra.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Solveig. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It's an honor for me. Well, as Abba said, I'm Almendra Cremasci. My pronouns are she, they. I'm based in Argentina, and I'm from Argentina. My background is in sustainability transitions and political ecology, but I am an agronomist. I work closely with farmers, breeders, and researchers to co-create a more just and sustainable, resilient system. And my first experience with PPB was in the context of Bioleft. As Abba mentioned, Bioleft is a participatory initiative focused on open source seeds and knowledge co-production. And we work mainly with crops like maize and tomato, but we are interested in others too. We started working on open source seed licenses in the context to this intellectual property concentration, or intellectual property becoming even more and more restrictive all the time. And we found that open source was like a great tool or a bridge to join communities and to start new conversations that between people that weren't used to collaborate before. But while we were doing so, and that is why we are part of the Global Open Source Seed Initiative that Abba mentioned in my introduction, but doing so, we realized that to embrace this open source seed system, we needed to address a more, urgent struggle that was the lack of seeds adapted to different sociocultural and agronomic contexts. I mean, farmers were really enthusiastic about pledging their varieties and sharing, but they really also manifested that they needed seeds adapted to organic seed system, agroecological seed system, family systems that didn't find in the market. So they started manifesting this mismatch between what they could access and what they really needed. And they really did have the skills to develop seeds, but there were many challenges they needed to face. One of them, their own image of farmers being really able to develop new seeds or having a meaningful knowledge. So we started to experiment with participatory plant breeding. taking two cases, a case of tomato, focusing on develop new tomato varieties with high flavor, with this antique flavor of tomatoes, and also maize adapted to organic systems in Argentina. And it just made sense because it allowed us to work together, to have meaningful conversations, to open up the space for new ideas besides breeding. We developed not only new seeds, but also new friendships, new capacities, new tools. We started to co-design this platform that Jared mentioned before, that is an open source platform for open source seeds. We have co-designed it, and we are developing a new version that is going to be online by the end of this month, hopefully. So why now? I mean, why is PPV not only meaningful but urgent now? We are facing a climate change crisis, we are facing biodiversity loss, but also biocultural diversity loss. At the same time, the seed industry is more concentrated than ever, and our governments are undermining science, are underfunding science and collective practices. So with this feeling of PPV being a great potential answer, not the only one, of course, but a great potential answer, a great space for cooperation, Jack Kloppenberg, a colleague at the Open Source Seed Initiative, invited me to the Organic Seed Growers Conference earlier this year, and I appreciate that a lot, because I met wonderful people doing really similar things, really aligned things to us, with platforms, with collaborative spaces as SeedChange. I have been part representing Bioleft of the PPV working group that SeedChange has been putting together the last years, where I found incredible experiences being developed along the region, but also in other parts of the world too. And this conference opened up really, really rich conversations about how convinced we are that PPV is a way, not the only one, but it's a really rich way with a lot of colors and possibilities, but how the how and the practicalities and the technical part of PPV is something that needs a lot to be done and work and work together. So with this idea of, well, we know why top-down solutions are not enough, and we need this kind of participatory approaches. We need more spaces to share questions, to share challenges, as my colleagues mentioned before, how to meaningfully engage farmers, how to collect and share data that is ethically grounded, but also scientifically robust, how to navigate funding constraints. We know that now the funding projects or the funding periods are really short compared to what a PPV project can take, that is usually a longer process. How to deal with these tensions between participatory approaches and academic publishing pressures, how to communicate PPV in a way it is easy to understand, easy to replicate, easy to adapt, easy to modify, and to challenge too. So I'm deeply convinced that our political goals, our ethical goals need to be also technically robust. We need to be able to participate in dialogue with mainstream institutions, with breeding discussions that are focused on efficiency and all those stuff. We need to talk to them in some way, and to do so we need, in my humble perspective, we need more results, we need more material and tools to get into talks that can bridge approaches. I mean, with people that think differently, that are in different kinds of institutions, and to do so, we need participatory plant breeding to become easily to do, easy to communicate, and easy to share with the world. So spaces like this one, spaces like the PPB working group that SeedChange colleagues presented before are really, really meaningful and have a lot of potential. The idea is not to add and multiply efforts, but to find synergies and that can enhance the potential of all we can do together. So I am really excited about this synergy space. I hope we can find ways to collaborate together, to learn together, and to embrace and welcome more and more people and scientists and farmers in this group. So to begin with, and to answer the question of, we know why, or we may know why, but how do we move forward together? We have set up a Mentimeter poll that I'm going to, or that maybe Abba, can you share the QR? Where you can vote on priority topics for this community of practice, but also suggest new ones that may have not been considered yet. It was what you will see is just a brainstorming that we did together in a meeting, but there's openness to more suggestions and more ideas. What can we do together in this space? So if you, I don't know if you can see the QR yet. Don't think it's right. Oh, yeah. Great. So if you take a minute to scan this QR, or there's a link also in our chat to answer, what would you like to do together? And if there is something that you can see and that you are really willing to push forward, please vote it with this thumbs up icon. And I'm gonna, in a minute, I'm gonna share some results.
Great. And I'm just noticing, Alme, that there's not a space to put your own answer that, aside from all these. So maybe folks can just put those in the chat if they have other aspects they want to support.
Okay. Okay. There should be a way of asking new question, it says. But also if you want to write it in the chat.
Oh, okay, great. So if you have something to suggest aside from what you see listed, just click on that ask a new question button.
Yeah,
Great.
ask a new question. Yeah. Yeah, that was the way we found to allow new suggestions, but also for participants to vote. So
perfect.
Great. So if you want, Abba, I can share my screen with some results we have. Great. This is just a brainstorming, but benefit sharing is something that people are eager to collaborate on. Fair participation, participant recruitment, trial design, data management, creative collaboration. Let me refresh the page in case we have some more ideas to work together. But it's something that we can also keep thinking. Yeah, okay. So I think these are the main topics that yeah, great. I'm gonna give one more time. Funding and business models, networking to see if others are already doing something similar or interested in collaborating, share learnings, including qualitative data. Great. Great. Yeah, we have a lot of ideas, a lot of points to start with. And the idea is that this is an also open source space, a field book. Several of those could probably be combined. Yes, David, you are right. Yes, we can work on that together. Sure, yes. Great. So maybe we can take this as a beginning, as a starting point, and then we can move forward to the next part of the call, Ava?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I know we have, we can take a few minutes just for, I'm just going to remove these spotlights here. But I just want to say thank you to you three for presenting, and just pause and see if there's any questions before we move into smaller breakout room discussions around this topic. Any questions or comments for our presenters? I see there's been some activity in the chat, but if anybody wants to raise their hand or come off mute, whatever you feel comfortable with. Any questions or comments for our presenters?
I have one. I wanted to thank Solveig for kind of going over her kind of background and like work history. It was nice to hear about that and kind of the journey that you've been on from being a farmer to the seed marketing to the cover crop and participatory plant breeding. I mean, I know everybody gave their background as well, but it was just something kind of just, I don't know, flipped a switch in my brain. And it just was nice to kind of hear that trajectory as well as think about how it holistically all works together for you as well now. And it's just nice to hear that there's so many overlapping roles and areas within organic seed systems and plant breeding in general. So thank you for sharing that about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Any questions or comments? We're gonna go into breakout rooms in a moment just to hear from you specifically with some of our regional leads about how this is landing for you, how you're involved in PPB, what kind of resources could be helpful for you, what already exists that you know about that should be considered here. So just continuing the conversation in smaller groups. But before we do that, I just want to leave a little more space for folks to share with everyone here. Okay, we're gonna go into breakout rooms. And before we do, I just want to say we've set up a space on the online platform Organic Seed Commons to help continue this conversation after the call. And so we'll drop that link as well before you leave. But I just wanted to let everyone know that after this, we will be inviting you to that space to help continue the conversation and keep sharing resources. So this isn't your only chance. I'm going to share my screen again just to share a little bit about the breakout rooms. So we do have our regional leads who are going to be holding it down. So in room 1, we're going to have Susana Cabrera Maris from the Northwest. We're going to have Michael Lorden in room 2, representing the Midwest, and Molly Travis in room 3 for California, and Almendra Cremasci in the room 4 for international or other regions. And if you don't fit into one of these, you can just choose one. You can also stay in this main room and just hang out with us here. But the point is just to hear a little bit more in depth from you about how this is affecting your work or your ideas for how a community of practice for PPB could be helpful for you in your region and your work. Or if there are particular challenges that you're facing, etc. You can see the prompt in the chat, and we will we'll post this in the chat as well. But we're going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. Michael, I'm wondering if you can help me with that. So if you go down to your the bottom of your screen, you should see a sign that says breakout rooms. And if we can have folks move into those, that would be wonderful. Okay. Yes. Welcome back, everyone.
Yes, good
morning.
I have some problem with my Zoom.
No worries. You're welcome.
Hi,
Thank you very much.
Enrico.
All right.
Hola, Almendra, ¿cómo estás? Que acabaron unos problemas técnicos.
Hi,
Grande, Almendra, me salvaste.
Welcome back, everyone. It's always good when nobody returns because I know that that means the conversation was really rich. So I'm sorry to cut you off. I do want to let you know that we did create the synergy space on Organic Seed Commons. I'm posting the link in the chat right now if you want to keep the conversation going. And really, the point of these calls is to start the conversation, right? To galvanize around a certain topic and give everybody a chance to share. And then from here, it's really, you know, up to you where this conversation goes. So this is your conversation. This is your community of practice. We really hope that you'll engage with us online. I also want to drop this other link to suggest a quarterly call topic. If you have something else you want to see discussed at these calls, this is a good form to do that in. Before we hear from folks on the call, does the facilitators from each room want to just give a quick little highlight recap, just a few sentences about what happened in your room, just a couple key highlights, maybe starting with the Northwest team. Susanna.
Sure, yeah, we talked a lot about, I think one thing that came up was education for farmers to learn plant breeding and the need for that, whether it is access or funding. And so we talked a little bit about education and what that could look like. And then we talked a lot about the relationship management component of PPB, what is required. It was noted that quite often that is a component of PPB that is underestimated. And then we discussed like top-down versus bottom-up models, and thinking of what are ways that we could move those models around, and how PPB often bridges that gap.
Great, thank you, Susanna. Want to hear from the Midwest team and Michael, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. In summary, I would say a lot of our conversation focused on some of the economic and funding struggles that PPB has had and that we're facing in this current state of the funding situation. We talked about the need for some more economic analysis about market, the size of markets and the demand for these different regionally adapted varieties. We talked about the roles of the farmers and the breeders in PPB projects and where each person can really shine. And then we talked about the need for kind of more creative solutions around project funding. Native plants or short-lived perennials was brought up as being even more challenging for these really short funding cycles that grants usually offer. To be working on perennial breeding projects requires longer time frames. So trying to figure out what the best practices are for funding some of these long-term projects.
Thank you. And Molly and or Jared, if you want to pop in for California.
Sure, I don't mind speaking. It was a group of us California OSA folks, and we enjoyed having Martha Santizo on our group call as well. And we're grateful for her kind of blurb a little bit about herself, being from Guatemala, being an organic inspector. It was nice to have a little additional person here on our call, but we mostly talked about collaboration and the collaborative side of participatory plant breeding, building community of practice, talking about kind of cooperative styles or cooperative breeding projects, some of the skills that align both with participatory plant breeding and movement building as well, and how some of those have crossovers and differences, where to learn those skills, which kind of led into the main thing of California just being a really big state with a lot of different regions within its own state, and thinking just about the agricultural history and how long things have been established here, and the big commercial focus that exists here in California, how to manage that with different goals people might have for PPB in the state. So it was cool. It was cool to kind of focus on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Molly. And we'll go to Almendra.
Well, thank you. Well, our room was mainly networking and getting to know each other. We had folks for all around the world, the US, Canada, Europe, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Argentina, Mexico. So it was a really multinational, multicultural group, really nice to know each other, and also different relationships and experience with PPB. Some of us had little experience, others are starting, others interested, but there's a really nice interest for collaboration, where it's PPB or policy advocacy, and really different topics or interests, but there's this need and appreciation of coming together and having this opportunity to talk to. So thank you.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, so there's a call for everybody to join the Organic Seed Growers Commons group to continue the conversation. I know a lot of you just got to do the introductions, and obviously we could spend many more hours talking about this together. So apologies for the brevity here. Anything else anybody wants to share before we just open it up to general announcements that may or may not be related to PPB? Anna, yeah.
Yes, I want to finish an idea that I was saying in the other group. Like, I felt in the conversation this really need and desire to collaborate, and I was telling them that also I feel that we definitely need to build trust, because we are talking about germplasm and all the things that happen about germplasm with appropriation, with patenting, with all of this. So it's like, and we think differently about it. So it is, that's what my take out after the conversation and listening to these people from many places and that they are professionals on this, on the work, on seed and plant breeding, is like how building trust, how to heal our relationship on trust and in collaboration, because at the end we need each other. We are losing the biodiversity, but the day and the together work is what can help us to do it, to save some, or to preserve. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Great. Anybody, I'm going to just open it up in our last 5 minutes. If anybody has any announcements, they could be PPB related or not, something coming up that you want to make sure that this community knows about, a resource or a class or an upcoming event that you have to share. We're just going to kind of open it up for the last 5 minutes here. Feel free to raise your hand or just come off mute. Yeah, David, go ahead.
So thanks, Abba. Just a general comment and maybe question for the OSA staff is the Organic Seed Commons is great, right? But I have found in trying to use this various times over the last few years that it's actually hard to get people on it or to actually use it. And so I would love, I have several working groups on our platform, and I would love to transfer them over to the Commons, but it seems to be another hurdle that people have to get over to actually get on it. And so any clues, any way to make that barrier somehow lower would be very much appreciated.
Yeah, David, let's talk. I'll send you an email because I'd love to hear some creative ideas, and that goes for everyone too. I'll put my email in the chat. But yeah, I hear you. It's a real concern. You're not the only one who's identified it. So let's chat. Let's make it better.
Okay.
Thanks, David. And Anna, did you want to give a little plug for the synchronous course?
Thank you. Actually, today is the deadline, and we already have like a group more for the synchronous. For the asynchronous, I just put a link there. Maybe Susanna, I think, is now the one managing it. I'm not sure, but it's a good course. It's a good course. Check it out. You can share it with your networks. Is basic knowledge, but very complete. OSA has done an amazing work in systematizing knowledge about seed production. I don't know if Susanna wants to say something.
That was an amazing advertisement for it. Is that the right word? Yes, promotion for it. So thank you, Anna. Yeah, it's a basic seed breeding course that's available on Organic Seed Commons. It's self-paced, you can decide how quickly you want to go through it. And Michael has been working really, really hard on it the last couple of years. And so the content is awesome and it's been updated. So feel free to check it out. It is on Organic Seed Commons. So David, have fun with that. And yeah, feel free to share it out. Thank you.
Awesome. So Anna's going to be starting our synchronous course this month, which is a live course with a cohort of about 30 folks. And then this asynchronous course is available to everyone throughout the year. So please check that out if that's a resource that your organization could use. Any other quick announcements before we close the call?
I got just one more thing I wanted to say is that I'm really glad that I had time in my schedule for this. The invitation came out as only 1 hour and 15 minutes and we're 1 hour and 45. So I don't know what with that.
I'll check my Zoom invite here. Thanks, David. Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of other ways for folks to connect in the chat. If Organic Seed Commons is just one tool of many that's available to you, and truly this is your conversation. So however you'd want to organize it. I see Jared suggesting a listserv, a way that OSC could function as a listserv, etc. Any other thoughts before we close it out? All right. Well, thanks for sticking around, everyone. I want to give a big thank you to our speakers, to Kat and to Marvin and to Beatriz and to Almendra and Solveig and Jared and everyone who shared and spoke up today. It's beautiful to see you all here. I look forward to seeing you on August 1st for the next call. If you have a topic you want to suggest, please fill out that form. We'll be sending out, we do have one more thing for you to do. It helps us with our funding. We do have a post-event survey for you that we will use to hold on to that precious funding that we do have. So please, if you can, take 2 minutes to fill this out. That would be super helpful for us and for our funder. And Laura, I don't know if you want to say anything to help close us out, but I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you so much, Abba, for pulling this together. We're really excited to be able to have these convening calls and looking at ways that we can connect as a community between these opportunities when we get together in person. So obviously with our Organic Seed Growers Conference, we are only meeting every 2 years. And so we really want to be able to create opportunities not only to connect, but to maintain momentum around some of the issues that we see as a collective community that we want to continue to support and promote, whether that's regionally, nationally, internationally. So really excited to connect with all of you and looking forward to many more of these calls to come. So again, thank you so much, Abba, to the OSA team for pulling this together and for all of you for participating and our speakers from really throughout the world and participants. So again, thank you all so much and really looking forward to, again, seeing you in the future. And I'm assuming this is, as a recording, will be up probably also on the Organic Seed Commons and maybe our YouTube channel for folks to be able to access and share with others as well who may not have been able to attend the call.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Nice weekend. Thank you.
Everybody. Bye-bye.